East Texas organizations today are recognizing World AIDS Day.
Tyler Area Gays Plus and Special Health Resources held an event to help folks learn about treating the disease and how to break the stigma surrounding it. KLTV's Michael Richardson reports.
Tonight, Tyler Area Gays Plus and Special Health Resources hosting an event bringing attention to HIV and those who have lost their lives due to complications from the disease.
Donna, Ralph, Charles, Joel, Gary.
Tyler Area Gays Plus President Billy Diaz says more education about treatments and how to prevent HIV can help eliminate the stigma surrounding the disease.
It's not a death sentence anymore, of course. There's plenty of treatment for both. If you are living with HIV or even if you're not, there's preventatives that you can take.
Several spoke at the event recounting their experience with the disease.
The thing that I can say to someone, just don't give up before the miracle happens, right?
According to the World Health Organization, over 40 million people were living with HIV worldwide at the end of last year.
We've advanced so far. If a person now gets pregnant when they're with HIV, as long as they take their medication, their baby's not at risk for catching HIV.
Diaz says some of the resources in East Texas to help with HIV include the East Texas Cares Resource Center and PATH.
The important thing is to get it under management and under control and actually learn about those resources.
Michael Richardson, KLTV 7 News.
Tyler Area Gays Plus has an HIV peer support group. They meet the fourth Tuesday of every month at the Glass House Resource Center.